Today we will be talking about Ghost of Tsushima, which is the 2020 release by Sucker Punch Productions and one of, if not the most accurate samurai game we have to date. Like, there's no two ways around that. We recently made this video on the channel where we compared Ghost of Tsushima with Sekiro, but I'm pretty sure many of you all know that between Tsushima and Sekiro, when it comes to embodying what a samurai is and feels like, Ghost of Tsushima definitely grabs the crown. And today we will answer the billion-dollar question: is Ghost of Tsushima worth playing in 2023? If you're planning to try it out for the first time and you got your eyes on it, or is it worth revisiting if you've played it a long time ago and you want to get back into it? So grab some snacks, lay back, and let's dive right in. So I'm gonna keep this extremely short and simple for you guys. Everything you hear in this video is coming from somebody who just recently finished the game and the DLC as well. I have to add that if you have played the main story of Ghost of Tsushima and you haven't checked out the DLC yet, you 100% should. It feels like it should be part of the game. It is just as, if not better than the main game itself, but the enemies are way bigger pain. With that being said, in Ghost of Tsushima you play as Jin Sakai, who is basically a samurai, and the main point of the game, the story itself, is to protect the island of Tsushima from the first Mongol invasion of Japan. The game starts off extremely intense during a battle between the Mongols and the samurais, and your uncle is captured, and basically the whole game you have to like get your uncle back while protecting the island. It's actually pretty cool. The story itself gets more sad the more you play. It's sort of an emotional roller coaster. I didn't cry, but I know a lot of people did. It's pretty sad itself, but it's extremely well made. It kept me interested and going. And again, regarding the DLC called Iki Island, it's basically like you as Jin travel to another island, and it's not an addition to the main story, but you do find out a lot more info regarding to the main story if you play the DLC, and that's why I think it's so worth it. The next thing I want to touch on is gameplay, combat mechanics, and how Ghost of Tsushima normally plays out. For those who have never actually played Ghost of Tsushima, it's sort of the game that after the tutorial at the start of the game, you're just like thrown into the open world with like 2-3 main missions max, but there's so much side stuff to do. Besides side missions, which I actually did not enjoy as much as I would, I don't know, they just did not keep me interested. But besides that, there's a bunch of other small activities, Mongol camps to raid, which I found more interesting, and the only type of side missions I really enjoyed were the mythic quests. They're marked with blue on your map and they're a little bit more difficult to find than the side missions, but I liked them because they have a bigger background story, 1, and 2, they either unlock a really cool piece of armor or some dope abilities which you can use. Some of the strongest abilities which you can use in the game actually. Again, side missions themselves, yeah, maybe I did a few here and there, but I wasn't really like, yeah, let's go do side missions, you know? Which is weird because the main missions and the main story itself tailored beautifully with the environment and just it developed really good. The variety of missions is also really nice. Like sometimes I liked going sneaky, other times I just liked to stand off and go crazy because at the end of the day that's what samurais really do. There's different ways you can play this game. You can actually be a ghost, like go sneaky, which is basically breaking the code your uncle put, or just respecting the code and fighting everybody, I quote, with honor. But the combat mechanics in Ghost of Tsushima are actually so freaking good and satisfying. And it's not like anything out of this world either. It's based on parrying and dodging. It's not like anything revolutionary, but they still manage to pull it off, and it feels so good when you hit that perfect parry and you just slice and dice enemies. I personally played the game on hard difficulty and it was a bit of a challenge, especially in the end game, but it was really nice. The boss fights aren't really that difficult, they kind of have repeating patterns, but they were still nice. You can speak so much about combat, like there is techniques, which is basically like skills you can learn. There is stances, the moon stance, the stone stance, the wind stance, depending on enemy types, like against brutes you use one stance, against people with shields you use another stance, against people with 2 swords you use another stance. If I were to describe the the combat in Ghost of Tsushima in one word, I would say it's overwhelming. For me, it was too much to keep up with at times, because there is just so much, like even switching to stances mid-fight I found it difficult, not to mention the throwables you get, and you have a bow and arrow, which is actually pretty good compared to other games, like the bow and arrow in Ghost of Tsushima, it's actually useful. There's so much about the combat which it can get overwhelming, you just gotta make sure you keep it simple. Of course, in this game you can't change your weapon, you just have a katana and a small knife for stealth kills, but still, there is so much to learn with this game, especially for players who've never played it, like myself. It took me a hot minute to get the combat down and the perfect timing down, but I think Souls players are gonna have an easier time with this. If I were to talk about my favorite aspect of Ghost of Tsushima, it is 100% the graphics and visuals. This game looks phenomenal. It's probably my most preferred thing about this game, and the aspect I spent the most time at. I literally just gaze at views and the environment for like 10-15 minutes. It's that good. They did an incredible job with the visuals, the brightness, you know, everything about how this game looks is perfection. I think sunsets in Ghost of Tsushima might be the best ones from any video game ever. Let me know in the comments down below what's your thoughts on this. So we talked about techniques, which basically act like a skill tree. We talked about stances, which vary on enemy types. We talked about throwables like smoke bombs, darts, which you can put enemies to sleep. There's so much stuff that you can use against enemies, mostly when you're going stealthy. We talked about the bow and arrow, which has multiple arrows. You can even put your katana on fire if you want. That's how crazy it gets. But another thing I really enjoyed is the customization. There is so many outfits you can pick from. You can customize your head, you can customize your body, your katana, your knife, and obviously your whole outfit. And you can go from like a straw hat with just a robe to a fully built samurai with armor. You can make a bunch of cool combos that look badass. Also, armor sets do have their own benefits, which I actually did not pay attention to that much, and it was one of my mistakes. I go by how it looks. Okay, so we talked about everything there is to talk about, I believe. Story, gameplay, graphics and visuals, combat mechanics. And to answer the billion-dollar question, is this game worth playing in 2023? 100% yes. No two ways around it. Ghost of Tsushima is the best samurai game we have to date, and it will still be worth playing a long time from now on. Even replaying for that matter, if you're somebody who already finished it. Or if you're somebody who never played the DLC, now would be a perfect time to actually try it out, because there were talks about a Ghost of Tsushima 2 coming out. I think those are only rumors for now, but that would be insane. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it, feel free to drop a like. And if you're new here and want to keep in touch, make sure to subscribe and never miss another upload. Comment down below what your thoughts are on Ghost of Tsushima. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!